I mean, look, the first time I became aware of you, as I'm sure happened for lots of people, was just the phenomenal Liz Truss impression you did, and the very first one. I mean, I know you've done this for a long time, and there's lots to talk about in terms of the longevity of this, but that was sort of what the first time I recognised you as you. I suppose I probably had seen you do other things as well. So, what was that? What was that like? That video going so viral the first time you did it?
Oh gosh, it was crazy because I didn't know who she was. So I sort of did this thing and it blew up, and because up until that point I probably got all of like 53 views or something on my videos, and suddenly I'd gained this following. So it was incredible, it was amazing. But then I thought, I don't know what to do with that because I'm going to have to do more, and I'm not an impressionist. And so I started like furiously researching her and trying to find out as much information and trying to find her voice. And then after a while, actually became probably quite worryingly obsessed with her, and now can't shake her.
Right, well, that's good. I mean, I think it was just that you did absolutely nail the definitely. I mean, I don't really. I think that the voice is great, but you absolutely nailed the. I mean, you look a bit like her, not really, but you nailed the face. I think, isn't it? It's just the sort of.
I know.
the empty face.
Pork market. The pork market face, as I call it. I spent so long just looking at her doing that smile it did verge on obsessive, I think.
Yeah.
And I did. It took me a long time, and I kept, no, my jaw's not open enough. I've not done it. So I spent hours trying to master that. But I also started to notice, as I'm sure everyone did, her mannerisms. And then I saw that she started developing like a claw when she was speaking. And each time she delivered a speech, it was like she was trying another version, another way to try and, I don't know, connect with the public. So there was something new for me to latch onto every single time, which is probably why I had to go under the pseudonym for Undateables, because
but it must have been, I mean, you must have been the only person in the country who was disappointed that her reign was as short as it was. I mean, it's like, I was thinking, Janet Brown used to do Maggie Thatcher for years and years. Jeanette Charles, who we just lost, was the Queen for about 50 years. You must have thought, when that started, you thought, well, I've got work for the next 5 to 10 years being this character.
Yeah, I finally thought, hey, things are happening. I've got interest from TV, I've got all of these things going on. I thought, I'm definitely going to make some money out of this. And then, 49 days later, it was all over. And I remember I was actually on a plane. I was coming back from a holiday. And just as I boarded the plane, I heard everyone just saying, oh, she's resigned. And they were all excited. And I started to cry. Okay. I started... Because I thought, oh my God, everything I have got in this moment, by the time I land back in the UK, it's gone. It's gone.
Although it hasn't turned out that way, luckily. And I think she is one of those characters that will still be around, may make a comeback. I've actually started, I'm worried because usually with Tories, I find them quite sexy when they're in power, which I didn't with Liz Truss. But now there's just something so desperate about the failure of her and just the desperateness of her to carry on. I've started finding her slightly sexy, and I'm a bit worried about that. So, don't do the face, is what I'm saying during this.
I just realised nobody can see that. Well, I have as well, because that obsession, that obsessive bit sort of hasn't gone, because I'm so intrigued as to like what she's up to at the moment. Where is she? And I feel like there is that element, like everyone sort of, they're glad to see her gone, but really want to know and want more.
I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes with the rumours you hear about her, and her life is so sort of just to have turned from that like Liberal Democrat at university to being like a very right-wing Tory, and not like, she's not like really old. It's not like she's in an elderly person turning right-wing. She's a young person who's decided to become really right-wing. And you hear I'm sure you've heard lots of stories about it, but you hear stories about her personal life occasionally that make her sound quite an intriguing personality.
Yeah, and also just like her book as well, like reading it and just that her take on things and just how extreme, like her, how much we have in common, basically. But especially when it comes to decision making, because like you say, she'll 1 minute she's Lib Dem, then she's Conservative. She'll probably try for reform soon, and it's the same as me. I make a decision and just completely backtrack on it. So that's the other thing. I'm like really intrigued by her personal life.
So let's talk about the Edinburgh show now. I do want to talk about everything else you've done as well, but obviously the show's called The Exorcism of Liz Truss. So we are sort of working on it. So what's the thought? What's the idea behind this show?
As you may have gauged from this little conversation we've had so far, I'm a bit obsessed with her, I think, and I need to escape her grasp. So it's about me trying to find a way of moving on, because the other problem I have is that now whatever character I do since, everyone still thinks I'm Liz Truss, and they can just see that smile, or they can see pork markets or whatever. Like, even if I was Boris Johnson, people like online will just be like, well, what's Liz Truss done to her hair? Like, I can't escape. So and obviously from a career perspective, it's like really amazing that it's opened up this a bit more of interest in the profile, but then at the same time it's like, well, what do I do? So I need to move on from her, but there's probably part of me that's still holding on and hoping that she's going to come back, which is pure selfishness from my part.
It is, but it's a difficult thing. But as a comedian, as anyone doing anything creative, anyone acting as well, you create something that people like, and then it's that balance of how much am I gonna go all in on Liz Truss, and do I, in a way, maybe you're fortunate that it was such a short-lived thing, because if you were Jeanette Charles, if that was the rest of your life and you just had to be an elderly Liz Truss as she was in her 50th year of being Prime Minister, that would probably become worrying. And I think that what I would like about your career is that you've done so many different things as well, and even if you look at you online, you've done so many different characters. So it would be it would be a shame. It's nice to, as you say, to get the profile from a successful viral thing, but equally you hope that people will go to your other work as well. So like it can be a bit of an albatross, can't it?
Yeah, it's like a double-edged sword, really, I think. And it's really interesting as well, because especially now she is really fading from relevance. Like, in order to promote my show, I'm hoping that she'll do something again. Yeah. So I'm sat there waiting. And then also, if people say to me, "Oh, do more, Liz, do more," and then I do more, and then they're like, move on. So it's that thing of like trying to work out how best to handle this like strange period of time, and then trying desperately to find new characters to hope that I can keep it going with fresh stuff.
Yeah, well, it is, but that's all, whenever you do have a catchphrase or a character that's successful, you'll just, because different people get sick of it at different points, or different people want it forever, and you have to make your own decision about when you think, I've had enough of this. I remember, when we were doing stuff on the TV, you'd do something for a second week, and there would be people writing or emailing, oh, come on, we've had enough of Moon on a Stick already. Whereas some people 30 years later are still coming up to me and saying it in the street. So there's no way of pleasing everyone. So all you can do is kind of work out what you personally want to do. And with this show, again, as I said, we're talking at the end of June. So things are going to change politically, presumably. Liz Truss might very well lose her seat, which will be very interesting to see, which I'm sure you will incorporate if she does. But it's going to be a very different, possibly very different political landscape in August when you're doing this show. Is that something that's troubling you, or is it? Have you got a way of dealing with that?
It's exciting and also scary at the same time, because as well as that thing of, again, being indecisive, I'm like, oh, well, I don't know what to do. Do I make this even more political, even though I was sort of trying to move away from politics, and then it becomes a show about trying to get away from politics. But it's that thing where I have to address the elephant in the room, which is the general election, which I thought probably would happen in like the autumn or something.
Yeah.
So then all of my stuff is basically just, at the moment, you've got Liz Truss, who's gone from relevance. I've got Boris in there. I've got Nadine Dorries. They couldn't be any more irrelevant if they tried. So I'm going to have to try and, whoever gets in or whatever happens, feed things in. But again, you can't really do anything with that until we know. So
no, exactly.
And
I think you're. I mean, it's not like if it was another year away, I think you'd be in trouble. But I think I think a couple of months, hopefully, so much won't happen. You've got Angela Rayner, I know you do. So she should still be a prominent figure. But yeah, I mean, that in itself it's interesting how all those. I mean, there's such big characters, and I guess the next group of politicians might not be very big characters, which might be a good thing for the world and for the country. Possibly, just have some sensible people who control, some people who aren't mentally ill in charge. But again, as a comedian, it's maybe a bit harder to find what's funny about Keir Starmer, or I can't even think of most of the Angela Rayner is the most interesting one, I suppose.
Yeah, you're so right, and it's interesting because it is like a playground at the moment, and they're just all playing about in the swings, having a lovely old time, just going absolutely crazy, which means it's great to parody. But at the same time, that's a double-edged sword because they're so ridiculous. Some of these characters, I don't even know how to up their comedy because they're already they're so ridiculous. So. And then, like you say, on the flip side of that, then you might have them really boring, and you think, "Oh, I don't know what I can actually do with you to hype it up." So it's trying to find that like middle area, and I'm just hoping because even when I started doing Liz in the first place, that's a weird sentence. I thought that she was a comedian, like parodying politicians. I genuinely didn't realise that she was a real person, a real MP. So that's half the thing. It's like I have to try and catch up with what is actually happening because I can't keep on top of it.
Good. Well, that's good to see. Well, look, I'm sure I'll mention again, you're just the tonic at the Caves at 2:40 in the afternoon, all the way through Edinburgh. So I'm sure it's going to do fantastically well. But do pop along and see that if you're in town.